a freestyler as opposed to somebody that's thought everything out or like doing a really good build. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of North American players have their own flair to their play, and obviously that takes a little bit longer to develop. We've talked about this time and time again. Let's do the intros and then we continue on with this conversation on how NA meta can develop. On the top left-hand side, it is the greatest of all time in terms of North American gameplay, Neeb.
Absolutely is, absolutely is. And spawning over the bottom right is our blue Terran, representing Alpha X, it is Vindicta.
Yeah, Neeb for King, of course. But yeah, I mean, without getting into the socio-cultural aspects of like why it might be, it is clear that North American players have always been a little bit more chaotic, a little bit more, I guess you could say, creative, a little bit more individualistic in their approach to StarCraft, to where, yeah, they don't all copy the same guy, right? Like they have their own flair, and that's why we can talk about Vindicta doing things like going nukes in most matchups. But if you're figuring out the game on your own, and if you're doing your own build orders, then they're not going to be as optimized as something that the whole of the community, you could say, of pros are working on, right?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. And yes, without getting too much into it, I know like some people are part-time and stuff, and it's easy to assume like, oh well, if I copy the best person doing the best thing, like I'm only ever going to be maximum second best and everybody else is copying it too, so everybody else gets more practice against that. Why would I do that? That's way worse for me. So there's tons of like roundabouts that you can do in your own head of why it's worse for you. But here so far, we have a SV scout for Vindicta. I mean, it was pro scout obviously for Neeb, which we saw, but he's immediately going for a reactor first from his barracks. I like that kind of, when I say reactor first, marine into reactor, I like that.
Yeah, I like it. It's a little bit different. I mean, we were just talking about different, and especially on a map like this, I mean, maybe the Reaper will struggle to get all the information that it wants to get or something of the likes. Why do you like it, Ben? What does this lead to? Just a faster CC or
3cc, baby? Like he's so just looking at his gas, he took off the guys off gas here just to make sure he mines as much, as many minerals as possible.
Is that inefficient though to have 18 at this point?
I mean, having 18 is better than having 16, technically, especially if you don't plan on using that gas anytime soon, except for Reapers, which, you know, some people might argue against me on that, but it's true. It's true. Can't argue. You're just, you know, butt in your head. But yeah, going for a 3cc build against Neeb on Romanticide, this is the map that you can pull this off on. It's a very good defensive map, so why not? I like the choice by Vindicta.
Yeah, I read a Team Liquid article study, I guess like something like 8 years ago, about how 18 workers don't have a much different drop, or they don't have a big drop off from 16 workers. Like the 17th and 18th mine nearly as much as the first 16, and then there's a big drop off. So maybe Vindicta read that same article, maybe he believes in it. I still sometimes believe in it, and that's kind of like, yeah, the North American approach of trying to figure it out on your own, trying to, you know, it might seem a little bit inefficient. Some people would have put the people on the gas a little bit faster, but hey, this is good.
I mean, this is really good. This is also like unorthodox what Vindicta's done, and we do talk about him being a little bit crazy, right? Like he's fast, he's good. This is already way more damage than this was ever meant to get.
Oh yeah, wow,
like way more. And Neeb's probably like, well, I went for a Phoenix opening. I'm against 3cc, which he's now scouted, by the way, and he's like, and I just lost 5 probes. Well, this opening isn't good for me, and it just got a whole lot worse.
Yeah, and that is one advantage that you can take from playing your own style as well. I remember a stream by Lambo actually not too long ago where he was playing this Terran player and he was saying, oh my god, this is a mistake, this is a mistake. And all of a sudden a Liberator shows up and kills so many drones, and Lambo's just like, well, this is 2 minutes later, so I just didn't see it coming, right? And it's kind of exactly what happened here, where if you're not in that mindset of doing exactly what everyone else is doing, then your opponent's also going to be a little bit frazzled because they're not in that same wheel of becoming in that same, you know, doing their own routine, right? Like they have to mix it up to respond.
Oh, and look at me, by the way. Like he went for the Phoenix opening primarily to scout, and he probably wanted to go Phoenix, but upon seeing this, he's like, you know what? It's 3 racks and 3cc. I'm not going to go through with it. That would be, I don't want to say suicide, but it's one way to make sure that you are behind if the attack comes, which is going to come. We see that. I like the choice by Neeb here to just kind of be like, to throw out the idea. You know, it takes a a great person to not be stubborn and to not go through with something that, you know, it inevitably might fail.
Yeah, and that is a very organized approach, but very fluid approach that Neeb has here. And it is probably by virtue of playing so much on the NA server. By contrast, for example, I thought a Laser, and I was messaging him about this in between games in his last series, he was a little bit too rigid. I feel like a lot of the time he's too formulaic, you know, like where you kind of just get set on doing exactly what you've planned to do. And then sometimes it doesn't apply to every map or every situation, and you kind of end up behind. A good example of that, you brought it up during the last game, was the Banelings. The Laser thinks Banelings, middle line, that looks good. Well, at some point, it's not good anymore, right? Because yeah, I mean, your opponent wants to lose procs at some point.
Yeah, I love casting with you, because then we can talk about some other things too. I noticed that he kept sending his Vipers alone forward to try and abduct. Like he'd almost do the abduct without doing the move command with his air flock, whereas Serral was always so diligent about right-clicking everything forward, like the air flock, and then trying to abduct, because it would kind of make the feedbacks way harder, whereas Elisa wasn't doing that. I think that's something that would help his late game a lot, actually, with the Viper situation.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing that I mentioned to him, that I messaged him, like he actually tried to call me in between games so that we would discuss this, but I was like, I gotta cast. But yeah. Oh, another leg spike, a big one this time. So hey, that gives us a little bit of time to talk about this, I suppose. But one thing, for example, that I noticed, a Laser had like 30 Surglings at some point, right? They weren't really doing anything. And on a map like at 2000 atmospheres, I like that. But the problem with the way that a Laser sometimes approaches the game is like, what should I get in the late game? And 30 Surglings is part of his answer right now, you see? But it doesn't apply to Jagannatha when your opponent has ramps and when they have like blocked off, like they have all of the ramps blocked off and then full of cannons behind them. Like, what are you going to do with your Surglings, right? Like, and there's only 7 bases. Then you talk about 2000 atmospheres, much more wide open map, much bigger map, 7.5 bases or 8 bases, however you want to look at the gas. Red Vesping, Rich Vesping Geyser base. All of a sudden, 30 Surglings sounds a lot better because you can apply pressure to those bases, prevent them, play a different game, right? So, there's the Observer dropping. But again, like too formulaic of an approach also can bite you in the asses. My point.
Yeah, definitely. Like being rigid. It's almost said, like, you can be decisive and know what you want to do right from the get-go, but yeah, you want to be fluid, right? Like the whole Bruce Lee kind of thing. Yeah. And yeah, sometimes it can get the better of you, but sometimes like the boneheadedness can be a blessing in disguise. Like I feel that Vanya very often, he'll do something. Sometimes it's the absolute wrong thing to do, but it'll work. Yeah. StarCraft is it's a brutal mistress in the way that it can have that effect on you.
Yeah, and Laser does that too, and I love it when he does it in the mid game, right? Because it's like he won't stop, and yeah, your opponent might have to make a mistake or something, but he's so good at it, and when he starts going and doesn't stop, that's my favorite Laser. It's like total chaos, but it's super organized in the way that he just got there, in the way that he wanted to get there, and now it's go time, and when it's go time, he won't stop, and he will stop thinking about consequences, or you know, it's really fun to watch. And to your point, I think rigidity as well, like, serves more, like, the more proactive you are, right? Like, the Terran race, for example, dictates the pace a lot of the time. It's fine to have more rigid steps to get there, more build, I guess, build orders where you have your steps planned ahead.
Yeah,
like it's much more reactive. Yeah.
Certain timings, like wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, and, you know, what to do with all of them. And yeah, it can definitely... it's a good basis to be rigid. It's a good basis to have the backbone for things. This game, though, just talking about this, I am curious as to why Vindicta now, after surviving the scary stage of the game, funny missile turret, is now adding the tanks. Because very often in this matchup, it's like, you make tanks to survive, whereas he's like, you know what, I've survived? And he survived going 3cc, by the way, and then he's like, now I'm going to go tanks with the ghosts, which, unusual, but... Let's see, because I'm looking at this game right now and I'm looking at all the numbers line up. Even though I do think Neeb is the better overall player, it's not the worst situation for Vindicta by any means.
Yeah, and the tanks are kind of interesting on this map as well because of the topology. There's going to be a lot of rocks that they can hide behind. And that wouldn't have maybe come into effect as much if he wasn't biting for that control over the 4th base of Neeb, potentially, right? Like, that's, I think, where tanks are strongest, where we see the army of Neeb right now. So maybe not a terrible idea. We'll see how it works out. The army of Vindicta does look pretty good, and it's actually Neeb that's gonna meet it on the other side of the map. This could be dangerous for him.
Certainly could, because he's the one that's committed to like 2-2 on the way and stuff, and Vindicta, we see that armory's really late, but that's kind of by choice, because we look at that ghost count that he's whipped out, 6 ghosts, and it's got the frickin' bigger than the sun upgrade over here, as Rotterdam would say. Like, Vindicta's army's actually ridiculously scary against Neeb's.
Yeah, most certainly. So we'll see if he can find an opening. Certainly, I think Neeb will have to cancel this base, give it up. Don't want to go up that ramp, I don't believe. Instant cancel indeed. And now Vindicta's very well set up on this side. The shield battery overcharge has also been used already. So Vindicta can just wait that out. At the same time, Neeb is going for a counter attack, and this is where the All-American Protoss might get his edge if he can find anything here. But that bunker and beautiful positioning from Vindicta, Ben. This looks good.
You know, Cats, the whole time I knew this was going to be a closer matchup. Oh, Disruptor. Screw everything I said. This Disruptor hit was pretty damn decent. I mean, honestly, Vindicta's playing pretty well, man. Like, that run by was not easy to hold off. He has taken a bit of damage, but his army's still pushing. He's still pushing.
Yeah, it's looking very decent here. I mean, it feels like his bio should be a little bit bigger, the bio force, but the tanks are doing work. Not focus firing right away, but now focus firing some of those more important units. Only 2 disruptors for Neeb, and without shields left. Oh, but this disruptor shot was massive.
Whoa, I think Vindicta might have outstayed his welcome a little bit there. But, I mean, he's dealt a lot of damage, man. Like, he's actually been trading well. Neeb, he's no slouch. He's taken a 5th base elsewhere. But the probe count, it's not as high as Neeb would like it to be. It's got to be said.
Yeah, Vindicta trying to apply pressure there, maybe a little bit too preemptively. I feel like if he waited for these reinforcements to show up and then did the same thing, it would have worked out a lot better. But even still, right now, it's not too bad for him. Most of the disruptor shots, or all of them now, have been spent. I wonder if this is go time for Vindicta. Neeb thinks that it is, so he will actually just preemptively overcharge the battery. But Vindicta will not charge forward.
That's a lot. He was picking a fight he was never going to win with that PF in a solo. Oh, Vindicta. This is some decisive play, and I mean, this could bite him in the butt, honestly. Recall is used over here. What ends up coming? I mean,
not much.
Yeah, that Colossus very exposed and immediately shut down.
Yeah, very surprising. I mean, that wasn't the best recall in the world. Will cost Neeb definitely a Colossus. Could have recalled a lot more units there. But at least he will fend off the attack from Vindicta. Things are still looking pretty decent for the Terran player here, keeping up throughout the entirety of this game. But Neeb's army is growing in complexity. Now 4 or 3 disruptors out in the front here.
Yeah, it's... Vindicta's playing fast, man. I actually haven't seen his play line up quite as well as this, but he's getting a lot of good stuff done, and he's also expanding behind this.
Yeah, but no medevacs for this side of the army. At the same time, he's gonna try to go into the natural once again. The disruptors are here this time, so Vindicta's just gonna pick up. And I wouldn't mind it if he dropped right away onto the 4th base, onto the forward 4th, right? Because that's a lot of units that Neeb is showing. But yeah, I mean, Vindicta is now remaking some medevacs. Most of his medevacs at the front have low energy. Gonna maybe be able to pick up one Immoral. Nope.
Oh, for a second there, I thought I heard a disruptor shot, and for the first time, I was like, oh no. And like, I was feeling sorry for the Protoss. I thought it was going into the probe line. Luckily, it wasn't for him. But Vindicta, he's not slowing down. He's adding weird things to the mix as well, like Liberators. I'm not sure if that's the play, because, yeah, Stalker Warpins are pretty damn good.
Well, I'm a little bit surprised that he went with both of the Liberators to the same spot. I feel like at least if he had put one at the 3rd, that was a little bit exposed, at least caused a little bit more mayhem. Again, this army, no medevacs. There they come.
I mean, they're coming in from a bloody weird angle. There is a ghost here, which, I mean, honestly, this is, for all the good that Vindicta did, it felt like he bit off more than he can chew. Maybe went a little bit too crazy here.
Yeah, sometimes you just gotta chill, recompose, make sure that you have the right tools on either side, and then go. But like you said, and Vindicta maybe trying to do a little bit more than he's ready to do, right? Like just try to keep up the pace, try to keep up the tempo, and it's hard to blame him for that. I mean, he is definitely the underdog here, so trying to close off the game, perhaps just try to keep his opponent frazzled. But Neeb is an absolute pro, so he's gonna handle the chaos just fine so far.
Yeah, like Vindicta, if he buys enough time. He does have +2 air weapons on the way, along with advanced ballistics. He's up to how many starports? 2 starports with the reactors. Definitely not bad either. The thing is, he's maxed out, so that Liberator count can't actually go up beyond what it is. Still making tanks as well. Definitely an interesting call here. I mean, they're good if you EMP the disruptors and stuff, and then you can start shooting them from afar, but definitely a mobile.
All right, well, we'll see what happens here as the game unfolds. 2 more disruptors on the way. There is a little bit of squad of bio here. Will be greeted by blinked stalkers in front of them, as well as the overcharge, which always seems to be present for the Protoss player here. Neeb with another run by. In spite of that bunker, he's chosen to come again. He might pick up a tank for his troubles.
Oh, that drop in the main though, Cats. It's going there. And
okay.
It does unload. It can take out the pros at the 3rd base, which is nice. And Neeb, does he have a recall available? I mean, he does have one available, but...
Oh, those blink stalkers are daring. What is this?
I don't know, man. He was just single filing them into him, and EMP's a big man. Vindicta, he's running away with the escape Cats. Look at him. He's everywhere.
Wow. Yeah, that was very impressive. I mean, a little bit. We were talking about Neeb not getting frazzled at that blink in a line, and hey, wow! Vindicta will take his first map ever against Neeb to make the score 1-17.
Impressive.
Very impressive.
I always knew this was going to be a good match, Cats, and that's why. I'm kidding. I gotta say, Vindicta played really well there. Like the constant fighting in 3 places at once. Few things didn't go his way at all. And I was like, oh, damn, this is it. He's going to start crumbling. But holy crap, those blinks, you're totally right. The blinks into the main, and then like nothing was going Neeb's way there. And yeah, 50 supply getting unloaded like that. That's brutal. Very nice unit composition by Vindicta. This was maybe the most well-rounded I've seen him, which, yeah, if that's the Vindicta that Roddy's been hyping up, a few years back, I'm not surprised, because that was very well done.
Yeah, very well done indeed. Single filing a lot of the army was Neeb, but Vindicta created those advantages for himself. I think he played like the underdog, and he played the part really well, right? Like, he took risks starting from the beginning. You pointed it out with the Marine opening into a very fast 3 CCs. And Neeb, while not committing to the Phoenixes, because that might have been awful for him, it was still kind of like him trying to catch up economically, right? Now you have kind of a dead Stargate if you're Neeb, and this is all because Vindicta took those risks. Now I wonder, if you're the Protoss player and you already made a Stargate, is there something else that you can do to actually punish a player that's as greedy as Vindicta in this instance?
If you go Stargate?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd say like Oracle play is always decent. It's always one of those dream situations if you're a 3-Rax player, especially if you're in 3 CC. He got 5 pros worth of damage with a double Reaper, very random. I think
that was huge.
It's difficult because making that 1 Phoenix, you just feel like such a plonker. Because it's like, it's not going to do anything. And it's like, oh no, do I commit now to the Phoenix? And it's like, maybe there could have been some point where he's like, you know what, I'll get out a group of 5 Phoenix and we'll use that later, and I don't need to get Blink then and stuff for the medevacs. And maybe that'd have been really good for him later on. I've seen some players as well, that on a map like this or Oxide, where you have a very obvious drop into your main, you get a single Void Ray for that kind of stuff later on. Can help quite a bit for the medevacs. But yeah, just a rough spot immediately for Neeb to be put in. I liked the build order choice on Romanticide by Vindicta, and I said that initially as well. Is like, I like this, but normally it's a 4-gate Blink Stalker map for Protoss, and the fact that Neeb didn't go for that was a bit weird, honestly.
Do you feel like 4-gate? Oh, I see. So you feel like if Neeb had opened 4-gate Blink Stalker, all of a sudden the mind game, I guess, or the risk that Vindicta was taking is not very good then? That opening's not good against Blink Stalkers? Or
if you survive, it's okay. But it's a big thing, like, if you survive. If you go up against somebody like as good as Neeb that's 4-gate Blink Stalkering you, and you've done something where tanks are late, and it gets really rough, like really rough. But yeah, I haven't seen Neeb go for any of those super shameless builds, actually. Nor like, say if he was doing some Void Ray stuff. But Vindicta did scout early on with an SV, so maybe it's not as black and white as that. Anyhow, getting into the second map, which will be 2K Atmosphere. Spawning over in the bottom left here, as our Blue Terran, it is Vindicta.
Map 1-0, very impressive.
Absolutely, yeah.
And in the top right-hand side, trailing in this series for the first time ever against his opponent, it is Neeb. Let's see what else Vindicta can bring, Ben, because I love his approach. I mean, even if it is risky, even if Neeb could do a build order that nets him an advantage against it, that's what you have to do as the underdog, I think. So, and now with that lead, I hope that he feels like, you know, he can take even more risks. I'm not sure that the same risk would pay off. So let's see what he has in the bag.
No, definitely. This game, it will be Barracks Before Gas, which is the super standard build for Terrans out there. Neeb going for the low ground stuff. This isn't super weird or obnoxious. I think it does allow for you to get a really fast Cybercore and then get your Adept across the map very, very quickly, which I think is something that could work out very nicely against a player like Vindicta, because if he's allowed to do his own thing, he's quite scary. But if you throw him off a little bit, well, I think Neeb's... that lends to Neeb a little bit more, right?
Yeah, for sure. It'll also give him some defense, I guess, later on against the likes of like Hellion Rambais, if there was like Hellion into whatever in the main base, right? So that could also be good for Neeb. But what are the disadvantages here, Ben? Is Neeb just saying you didn't open with Reaper right away last time? So is that the biggest thing?
I'm not sure, you know. Like, Neeb does get to scout here that it is a Marine opening again. I think the only thing, so I used to think this a long time ago. I was like, if I see a gateway at the front, obviously I'm going to tank push you.
Okay.
But Shield Battery really kind of thwomped on a lot of those builds.
I see.
But yeah, if I looked at this and I'm Vindicta, I'd be like, okay, I'm definitely not doing some Hellbat, or rather Hellion at the front thing. Oh, so Vindicta's like, you know what? Going to do a very similar thing here. Going to go 3 racks, just not 3 CC.
Very interesting. And I guess in a certain sense, the gateways at the front or whatever SimCity is at the front will create a choke for Neeb to get out. And so those buildings will be exposed at the front. So maybe Vindicta, seeing as this is a map without a ramp, he feels like he can maybe threaten with a head-on attack.
Absolutely. I like the 3 racks builds are really good right now. Sometimes you can auto win games. You really want to play against Stargate openings. Like
this is the best case, right?
Yeah. Like the auto loss situations, or at least the bad situations, are where you will go up against like a robo build and like Colossus drop. That's the guaranteed kind of win against it. But for all intents and purposes, Vindicta is absolutely winning the mental battle at the start of this game.
Yeah, the build order certainly favor him. We could have a massive upset here at 2-0. And it seems like Zombie Grab and you might have picked the best possible series. I mean, it's been a day of upsets, all things considered.
It definitely has. This is one thing that I'm surprised about, though. So we're going to look at that gas count and what have you. So Vindicta's lined himself up to get Stim Combat Shield, but his money, like, he can barely afford the units out of these 3 Raxes because he's gone for the second gas so early. You don't need it that early at all. So this is definitely something where he's going to push out with 3 racks, and Neeb's scouting this. He's like, 2 gases as well? All right, this is kind of weird. And honestly, Vindicta, this is one of the things that kind of confuses me a little bit about his play sometimes. This is just a build order choice that he's made a lot trickier on himself, just by he's going to have less buyer than he should have.
I see. Because he went for the double Tekla?
The second gas. You can do all this off just one gas. So like his gas count, like we're looking at it. This factory, like even if he's getting that factory right now, he can get +1 as well, but the +1 is it's not going to come in for quite some time. So that's also kind of redundant gas. It's not the cleanest. And he went for the 3rd gas super quickly as well here, which you're not going to be able to use all that for quite some time.
Yeah, so I guess we were talking about this, right? Like maybe a more optimized build to put all the chips on the attack would be to skip that gas. However, this gas does grant him an easier transition should he do enough damage, or should his attack get completely thwarted, that he will have that +1 attack a little bit faster, right? Like maybe there is a follow-up timing that he can hit, but this attack's not going to be hitting as hard as it could have, much less if he's wandering around and not really just going for it right away. So, liking his chances to make this work a little bit less and less, right?
Absolutely. And you know, you got the starport kind of halfway done, and this army that's moved out across the map, well, it's just kind of marching back home now. And it's like, oh, well, I've seen my opponents on 3 bases.
Is there no sentry?
You're sorry?
I thought there was no sentry for Neeb, but now one just popped up, I guess.
Yeah, one thing that is decent for Vindicta is the fact that he forced out 2 Void Rays. I don't know if that's knowingly he did that, but oh, look at this too. Going up to 5 barracks and a Ghost Academy.
Yeah, and now he's gonna have that +1. It's gonna kick in at a point where he can't really exploit it, I feel like. So maybe there's a +2 timing coming up for all of those buildings to come online. There is no 3rd CC, am I right?
No, he's gonna go for a big 5-rack all-in. Maybe he'll wait. So when I was talking about that gas, it's not useful. He's gonna whip out like 3 ghosts all at the same time, which that gives you definitely a timing window for your attack to deal a lot of damage. Maybe he'll pull the boys as well. Who knows? Who knows? This is NA, cats. This is NA. I love it.
Yeah, it's his own flavor. But again, like maybe he was never banking on that first attack. Neeb did over-defend to a good degree. He was clearly worried. Again, evidenced by the fact that he wasn't making any sentries or the likes. Like you said, he popped 2 Void Rays, which are not going to be very good on offense almost ever. The Phoenix gets taken down right away. That was not a hallucination, my friends. It's not halluc, as Huck would say.
I think it would, yeah. Whenever I watch that clip now, I'm like, this typing is all over the shop. But that was Huck in a nutshell, man. Like, he'd write to you in PMs, and it's like, what are you saying? Like, it's
too fast for his own good.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. The move out is coming from Vindicta, and this is about the scariest he's going to be. He's got 1 tank in the mix randomly, scans this army, and he's like, oh, okay, that's doable, potentially. But this Bio Squad, man, when I think about it, it's not that big.
Yeah, this is the real timing, but I have to assume he was probably hoping for a little bit of something else to EMP, right? It's just mostly basic units. There's no Archons or something in the mix where he would have a lot less units, but some Archons that are easily EMPable, easy to take down. Let's see if Neeb can take this down, though. However, as he's going to charge on forward, the Void Rays in the back will take the tank really fast. There's not much zealots to continue to buffer here. The EMPs did hit most of the army, but it looks like it's Vindicta on retreat. At the same time, another medevac that wasn't consolidated with the army is doing some damage. One of the Immortals will get taken down. The second one, however, doing too much damage, and Vindicta forced to pick up and leave. And this looks kind of good now for Alex.
I mean, you say that, and I do agree, but losing 7 probes and a chunk of your units over there at the 3rd base, this is Vindicta's way of being like, all right, we can absolutely make something happen. Because, I mean, Blink isn't done, so this isn't just as easy as being like, all right, I'm going to have units in the right position and stuff. He has to be very careful against this. Thing is, Vindicta doesn't know that Blink's not done. Oh!
No matter if Blink is done or not, if the medevac doesn't go away from the Stalkers. And so
absolutely.
We'll have to falter there, Ben. But yeah, it doesn't feel like the Ghosts are serving as much of a purpose as they would if Neeb had gone for other avenues, right?
No. I think the Mass Gateway stuff, especially after Neeb went for the Stargate at the start again, I think it all worked out pretty as well as it could do for Neeb. The tank choice also. Interesting. Yeah. Like this game, I think it makes more sense, the tanks, purely because he doesn't want to be making Vikings right now to deal with the Colossus. He wants to be piling out a lot of medevacs, so the tanks kind of fulfill that role a little bit. And yeah, the Ghosts, they'll melt those Archons.
All right, well, that's good that there are now Archons online, I guess, for the Ghosts to take advantage of. But at the same time, Neeb is looking for a counter offense with his Warp Prism. It will get spotted, and it will continue to go into the main base. Those 2 units, they stim, but they never had any chance to catch the Warp Prism. The Viking, however, very adept at doing so. The Warp Prism will have to be recalled back, and that is another dub in favor of Vindicta in this skirmish.
Oh, that's a lot of units here in these medevacs, and
he likes this move.
He certainly does. Is Blink done? No, Blink hasn't even been started to be researched here, cats. And I guess that stops the single fire of Blink into the main base again, but that's a healthy drop, man. That's a super healthy drop.
Yeah, I wish that the tanks were a little bit more tucked in on the chokes, but Neeb is actually going through the chokes for some reason instead of taking the open ground to the left. Okay, now repositioning some of his units to take that open ground. Now the tanks are kind of exposed, and Vindicta will be forced, I think, to pick up and leave. So Yeah, do you feel like the tanks would have done a little bit better if he had tucked them in a little bit further into the base of Neeb?
Maybe. The thing is, tanks suck. So, like, it's kind of one of those things where it's like, we took out the Colossus with him, which was great. How many Stalkers are on the field, actually? 7 still. There's 1 Colossus left over. I don't mind how Vindicta's playing this. Maybe he can kind of assess that there is no blink done. And I think he kind of knows that, because these Stalkers... Oh, focuses down the medevac does Neeb. That's decent. Loses the rest of the Stalkers as well. This is getting scary again for Alex, man.
Yeah, lovely move by Vindicta as well, tanking with the weak units, with the weak medevacs in the front, or the unloaded medevacs in the front, the non-full medevacs in the front, so that helps him out. Neeb takes 1 medevac right away, but it was empty, and the full ones do unload on top of those Stalkers. That is further damage after killing a Colossus as well. I mean, Vindicta is ahead in supply. He is keeping up on upgrades, and he's causing a lot of mayhem here.
He certainly is, and Neeb, man, I would love to ask him, like, hey, man, why no blink ever? Because like, that would help you so much for just stopping this stuff, or even getting out, like, I know it's kind of weird to say, but a Void Ray at this time would be really good. Oh, Vindicta, he's quick to pick up here and get out of there. But that should give Neeb the go-ahead that he's under attack and yet again.
Yes, indeed. The tanks will siege far away this time. There's a lot of Archons. Is there still Ghosts in this army? None this time around, unfortunately. 3 in production, however, so maybe Vindicta should wait to join up with those. The number of Archons is huge for Neeb.
Yeah, it certainly is. Like, the Ghost would help so damn much, actually. There's 3 on the way constantly. 2-2 is almost done. Holy crap, Vindicta in the main base? That is a huge amount of bio. Is he doing it
down
again?
The Templar Archives?
He
That would be a
take
sexy
down
pick.
everything, yeah.
Oh yeah, Neeb's not even coming back with the full of his army. 2 Colossus only. Vindicta, could you drop on top of this Colossi? Maybe. So. Neeb with, oh no! Neeb with the move command. The passing did not help him out there.
It certainly didn't, and these Archons, mate. I mean, at this point, that army of the bio is red, but moving up a ramp, Neeb can't do that, and this game is getting chaotic, very out of control.
Yes, indeed. There's only 1 EMP available right now. Soon to be a few more, however, if Vindicta can buy a little bit more time. The empty medevacs this time not baiting out the army of Neeb, but Neeb still losing a couple of Stalkers, and that means no anti-air to really contest this medevac's exits. And Vindicta with a nice mind game here. Neeb doesn't know which medevacs are or aren't loaded. I know all too much about these mind games. Which medevac are the units in, and Vindicta's gonna actually leave with all of the empty ones, leaving 2 full medevacs in the back of the base of Neeb that he may not be expecting later.
All right, Cats, unit counting time. That is 10 Ghosts on the field, 3 more in production, 2-2 upgrades for both of them now. This is absolute, and look how many Archons Neeb has. Like, that's absolutely the chunk of his army. Okay, Vindicta, you have to be so careful here, mate.
Yeah. At least a couple of EMPs before the Ghosts fall. Here are the units that were waiting, but Neeb actually left enough units back to defend. He's not going to be falling for any trickery this time around. At least he doesn't want to, and he's done a good job of not doing so far. Barely any Stalkers. Imagine how good a Vikings would be against this Colossi, Ben.
Absolutely, absolutely. These drops from Vindicta still being a thorn in Neeb's side, and he's warping in Stalkers. Now he starts getting Blink 14 minutes into the game. He's like, you know what? Maybe Blink would help with dealing with these drops. And by golly, you are right, Neeb. But late to the party. 7 Archons in this army. Mate, they're balloons waiting to be popped by these Ghosts.
Yeah, and Vindicta will also identify the lack of Stalkers. He has started now Viking production. There are 2 already out, I believe, 2 more on the way. So that is good on him. But now with Blink starting, I imagine Neeb will be adding some more Stalkers to that army. So the window for those Vikings to be overly useful, I guess, is going to close on Vindicta. They'll still be good, though.
They will. The problem... Okay, if I look at this and I'm like, all right, what's the issue here for both these players? Like, Neeb having 7 Archons, that was good for the time being, but they are literally like free supply at some point, and he's only got 2 supply to spend for this warp in 2 in the main base. That is sad.
Yes, indeed. So these units will get dropped here on the natural base of Neeb, but Neeb seems to have units everywhere this time around. His army is still looking scary. What concerns me about Neeb's composition is it's very basic, I guess. There's no real spellcasters, right? Like there's very little complexity. It feels like the type of army that you can only attack move almost. Oh, there's a disruptor.
Yeah, disruptors will help a lot. I mean, the tanks are pretty good against the disruptors. We talked about that earlier with like EMPs and stuff on them, but oh, that poor engineering bay, man. That was an exposed engineering bay if I've ever seen one.
Yeah. Good EMPs there on the front lines will make a lot of those units falter very fast, but that means no EMPs for the Archons, the chunkier units. Actually, there's a lot of EMPs, and everything will get EMP'd. Beautiful concave as well from Vindicta. Ben, is it happening again? Vindicta can chase, but why isn't he? Oh, now he realizes that he can. It's because of this. Maybe an F2 moment there for a second. Another one perhaps now, as he needs to deal with the counterattack in his main base. Just a warp prison warping in Zealot. So annoying. But he will catch most of the units of Neeb on the retreat. A great engagement all in all. We might be looking at a 2-0 upset.
I mean, we absolutely might be. I mean, Neeb, he's scrambling, man. He's scrambling. I mean, these Liberators sieged up in the most weird spot here, super aggressively. And the army in the main base is sort of getting cleared up. That super battery did quite a bit of work there. Well, I mean,
wonderful split.
Yeah. Neeb's still struggling. He's struggling to hold this off, man. He's got so much money. That Colossus.
That Colossus, does he not have the health bars on? That Colossus, any blow on it.
Yeah, just a little from any unit whatsoever.
An SCV, just drop an SCV on top of it.
Yeah, this is... Man, what a brutal game. Vindicta's like, scans the right, and he's like, oh, you've got that base too? Oh, am I getting ahead of myself? And honestly, that was a little bit poorly handled by Vindicta there, but you can't blame him. Like, he was just about... Yeah, he was just about to 2-0 Neeb, which was ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you have to be shaking, right? Because you get the feeling that you're beating Neeb while you're taking the best engagement ever there outside of your own third base, and then the Zealot warping happens, and then things start getting frazzled, and then, you know, like it's definitely got to be nerve-wracking for Vindicta, who, again, to remind you, had a 0-17 record against Neeb before the series was played.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. Vindicta's play, by the way, setting up so many sensor towers and stuff, you don't often see that in this matchup. Like, he plays it so weird in his own way. Holy crap, that's a lot of Zealots.
Yeah.
Okay. I think one thing that could really own here for Vindicta, just a ton of ghosts. They're so good against the Zealots, they're good against everything else as well. Single pylon here at this base. Vindicta's playing really good again.
Yeah, he's going after the Nexus here. That's going to be good for him. I'm not sure if that would have been better to go after the probes. Neeb does have 82 of those, so maybe the real estate is a little bit more valuable. But Neeb is punching back. There are no sensor towers or army on this side of the map, and I agree with you. I mean, that second sensor tower, I don't hate it if you have your army positioned on the other side, right? Because then you're blocking the entry of Neeb by attacking with your potentially stronger army on the north. But if you're attacking through the south and your sensor towers are also at the south, then they kind of overlap and roll, right? Because the army of Neeb's never going to come in through that angle anyway.
No, yeah, and right now, both of them really hurt each other's economy. Vindicta's at 43 workers versus 76, but that means their army supplies are pretty damn close. We have some big upgrades coming online here for Vindicta. That will mean Liberators can two-shot the Stalkers if they do hit them. And oh, I'm surprised that Vindicta didn't go, man. He had a flank ready there. It would have been beautiful.
Maybe second guessing a little bit. I mean, the chat has to be going wild right now. I'm sure they're claiming Vindicta as a Texan at this point because that's what NA chats usually do.
I mean, like, honestly, again, this is just, it's the best Vindicta I've seen in a while. Like, he does things in his own way, but it's been a lot more calculated than it is normally. This army from Neeb, though, is a freaking scary one, man.
This has to be a good place for Vindicta to try and take it down. However, as the Liberators are going to try to do what they can, and Neeb is actually on the retreat, but the army of Vindicta never collapsed from the other side, right? And I feel like with the Planetary Fortress there, yeah, the army is terrifying for Neeb, and yeah, it's actually very difficult to attack onto Disruptors. It's hard to lame him.
It is hard to lame him. I think that fight actually went way better for Vindicta, though, man. Like, weirdly said, Neeb was ahead in supply by quite a bit. And now I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't know who's winning, man. Like, I kind of prefer Neeb's position, but that's only because he hasn't had Vindicta on his side of the map in a while.
Yeah, and now is when I think it would suit Vindicta to do exactly this. I mean, with that many disruptors on the field, Ben, I feel like drops. I feel like splitting your army is going to be hyper effective. And this move has already paid off for Vindicta before. We'll see if he can make it work again. He can siege 2 bases from that high ground, take all of the production of Neeb in the main, and potentially just siege the tank to kind of deal probe damage onto that 3rd base location on the low ground. Here come 3 disruptors. We'll see if that's enough.
Okay, a few shots are done. Mate, I'm loving this for Vindicta, and yet again, like this army from Neeb, this is not the army to deal with this. It is not. The disruptor's getting sniped. That's a lot of ghosts that deal a lot of damage as well. And boom, single arm boy over here to defend it. I think Vindicta's doing it, man. He's playing beautifully.
He very well might be doing it. This was a perfect play, I think, against the disruptors, against that type of army composition. You want to spread it. I'm surprised that Vindicta's reinforcing the same location. He could go north right now with the rest of his army. I would love to see that. But if he can close out the game, he can close out the game. Now, all of the army of Vindicta is in the red. The medevacs don't really have energy, but it doesn't matter. He has done it. He has completed the 2-0 upset, Ben.
What a performance.